Of course, since the election was called, you've read headlines and stories about what the Newman government is going to do for you. And the promises yesterday at the launch came thick and fast. Mr. Newman knows about buying support. That's exactly what happens when big interests want the government on side. They just stump up the money. Just ask New Hope Coal. I'll talk about them in a moment. But let me just make a couple of observations here about things that you won't have been told. Why would Campbell Newman, in 2012, win 78 seats in an 89-seat parliament and say he's calling an election because he wants certainty? Why did a party with a two-party preferred vote of 63% at the last election sink to 50% when the opposition is only 7% in the Labor Party? An impossible job for them to monitor the appalling behaviour of the Newman government. And make no bones about it, this is as bad as anything we've ever seen in government in Australia anywhere. This is a bloke, Newman, who made a magistrate Chief Justice and walked all over the legal profession. Bully boy stuff. This is the bloke who won't investigate why a dozen people died in the Grantham floods. This is the bloke who knows the previous government approved $40 billion in coal seam gas projects to 2 companies. Oh yes, in opposition he said he was going to do something about it. Because there was no environmental impact statement or water impact statement, he's done nothing. He's now first best friends with the mining giants who are plundering this state and not improving our bottom line. Our debt is worse than it was when Newman came into government. But our agricultural land is being squandered. And he's done nothing, as I said, about the debt that he said he would address. Why was the election called? Was Mr. Newman going to lose the leadership? That's what I'm told. So he ran back here in a hurry. And if he loses the seat of Ashgrove, which he will, who's going to be the leader of his party? This has been real bully boy stuff. And as I shall demonstrate in a moment, you can't believe a promise this bloke makes. So, in typical bully boy fashion, with massive numbers at his disposal, he fought with the judiciary over the appointment of the Chief Justice. He emasculated the Crime and Misconduct Commission. He replaced members of the Parliamentary Committee overseeing it. He sacked the chairwoman, Liz Cunningham. He was frightened what the Crime and Corruption Commission might do to him and his government. Why would 2 eminent doctors, long-time members of the coalition, Dr Alex Douglas and Dr Chris Davis, walk away from Campbell Newman and his government and their behaviour? Didn't Mr Newman at the last election promise to create 420,000 new jobs in 6 years? Didn't he promise to cut the unemployment rate to 4%? Remember he was going to reform what you were going to pay for your electricity bill? Well, check your bill. There have been peak rate increases of 23% and off-peak increases of 48%. He was going to do terrific things in education. The fact is he knows nothing about education and he won't listen to those who do. So, oversized classes have more than doubled in the early years of education. Now he's going to sell public assets. Why? To create the jobs he said he'd create at the last election. To retire the debt he said he'd pay down at the last election. And he hasn't. I'm afraid I couldn't back Campbell Newman to run a chook raffle. You can't believe a word this bloke says. Prior to the last election, Mr Newman sat in my house in Sydney. I didn't invite him. He was virtually told by senior Liberals to attend because as a kid I went to school in Ackland, west of Oakey and Toowoomba. The Bligh government had already approved the destruction of Ackland because New Hope Coal had tipped big dollars into the political coffers of Labor and Mr Newman's party. Try $650,000 to the Liberal National Party of Queensland. I saw this coming and I challenged Campbell Newman that if Ackland Stage 3 were to be approved, then we would see the destruction of the very agricultural land on which my old man and many others had made an honest living. Campbell Newman told me in my house that if he was to become Premier, there would be no Ackland Stage 3. Campbell Newman lied to me. I have no reason to believe anything he's promising Queenslanders today. We've now established what Premier Newman and his government are. They're prostitutes. We're only haggling about the price.